how did we get here? Why did we talk about SPF? Why is that the takeaway? I couldn't tell you.
Okay, so I guess, all right. All right, we're back. Welcome to the Chemist Confessions podcast. I'm Gloria.
I'm Victoria.
And this is a human conversation on all the skincare science we talk about on the daily. And today we are going to dive into what seems like an old topic, but we haven't really touched on in a really long time. And that is glycolic acid. It's super popular. You guys are probably no strangers to it. But today we're going to discuss the burning question that is, so can you use glycolic acid during summer?
Is it safe? Is it good for my skin? Yep. We're going to dive right into it. And first, we're going to do a review that all of you have probably heard, but let's just remember why we like glycolic acid. So we'll put the structure up here. This is the iconic AHA typical characteristics. It's got a hydroxy group and a carboxyl group, and it's known for its chemical exfoliant property. So it's going to be basically breaking the chemical bond so that it can basically loosen those overdue stratum corneum dead skin cells. That basically is when you have that buildup over time is what leads to dull skin. It can actually even aggravate dry skin. So it's a very important aspect in having healthy cell turnover. Ultimately, in terms of reviewing concentrations, you want to look at anything between 5 and 10% for nightly use to really make the most of those benefits. But you can, of course, find it in home peels like our gold standard, which is anywhere up to 30%.
Yep, and of course, AHA is a category that has other molecules like lactic and mandelic acid, but glycolic really is the OG molecule that has the most data and the highest level of efficacy because it is the smallest AHA molecule. Being the smallest AHA molecule, it's also the most aggressive and more likely to cause irritation. So we always recommend, if you're new to the category, start with that nightly use level, 5 to 10%, to see if skin acclimates well. If you're extra sensitive and new to this category, or if you responded poorly to glycolic acid, refer back to our lactic and mandelic acid episodes for other AHAs you might want to try. But the good news here is because it is, as a chemical exfoliant, it has a reputation of, bring up that new baby skin that's underneath, and it's often associated with photosensitivity, and that's why there's a lot of questions about, can I use it during summer? Is it even safe? Or is there a scenario where I shouldn't use it during summer at all? In the realm of other AHAs, you have less data, but with glycolic, we actually have some interesting papers to share. But first, that was a really quick intro, but we're going to take a quick break.
Yeah. In case you missed it, our Blank Slate Gentle Gel Cleanser is finally back. It's gotten a huge glow up. It's going to look pretty different. We actually did a lot of work to upgrade the overall packaging so that it can be more eco-friendly. It's got a sleek flip cap bottle, and ultimately it is 100% fully recyclable. We are super proud of this product, and it also comes from 100% PCR post-consumer recyclable plastic. So all in all, it's just a really awesome glow up.
Yeah, other than the packaging change, if you're an old fan of the Blank Slate, don't worry about it. It's still the same great, gentle, low-film formula that everyone loves. In fact, you guys loved it so much, we've sold out of this cleanser 5-6 times already.
So sorry.
We are intending on keeping it well-stocked this time around, but please check it out. If you've never tried it before, or if you want to restock, don't forget your coupon code CCPodcast2024 for 15% off your order.
We are back, and it's time to answer the question, is it safe to use glycolic acid during the summertime when you're getting way more sun? And ultimately, there is a case that you want to continue using it, not just for the fact that it is a chemical exfoliant, but it's actually been tied to long-term benefits like tackling hyperpigmentation, fighting wrinkles. It even has been linked to potential collagen production. So in this sense, you don't necessarily want to lose out on those aspects, but you've always heard that you need sunscreen with AHAs.
Right.
To be fair, it's true. Because of AHA's nature, its mechanism, it's going to cause a thinning in the SC that is protecting your overall skin layers. And because of this, it does result in photosensitivity, which increases the photo damage that you can accumulate from being out in the sun. We're going to go through some of the data so you get a sense of what that looks like, but then bear with us because we're gonna go through all of it and talk about ultimately weighing the risks, is it worth using it? So
yeah. So first off, thankfully, there's actually studies that look into this.
A lot, actually. It's going to sound pretty repetitive because people have done quite a few of these.
Right. And in this first study we wanted to share, it was done in 2001. In this study, they did a pre-treatment with 10% glycolic acid at a pH of 3.5. Note that this is a pretty common home use product level. They did it once daily, 6 days a week for 4 weeks. And what happened there is it increased the number of sunburn cells formation. It led to an increase of sunburn cell formation and cyclobutane pyrimidine dimers. It's kind of a marker for sun damage, as well as a lowering of minimal erythema dose. So MED really quickly is basically how the minimal amount of UV energy it takes to burn your skin. As you can imagine, it is different for people, and it's usually tied with the amount of melanin your skin has. So it's tied with your skin tone. More people who are more fair has lower MED. And of course, if your skin has a natural baseline and that gets lower, people tie that kind of change with increased sun sensitivity.
Yeah, and I should also mention for the cyclobutane pyrimidine dimers, these are actually indicators of mutations in cells. So ultimately, they're using this to link it to potential skin cancer potential. And so the other thing this is actually the OG study. This study was actually done at Brookhaven Lab, a very famous lab, in collaboration with the FDA. And this is the data that they constantly reference and is why they require all brands to label correctly that you do need to apply sunscreen while using AHA products. The other thing that's really important to note here is that they actually looked at what happens to skin after you discontinue use. And I think the takeaway to remember is that this is actually a reversal, that photosensitivity that does occur. It can be reversed, and they found that within a week after discontinued treatment, skin returned back to normal in terms of UV sensitivity. So one thing to keep in mind is that don't feel like this is a permanent situation. Your skin is constantly, going to be photosensitized. That is not the case with
It's
HAs.
actually a pretty quick reversal since it was used at a pretty rigorous schedule for 4 whole weeks, but only takes 1 week for skin to dial back.
Yeah, exactly. Let's do a couple others, but it's just to kind of bring that message home. So another lab actually looked at a treated skin with 10% glycolic acid as well at a pH of 3.5. They did it for 5 days for 3.5 weeks. So
really specific.
Yeah, lower frequency, but also at 3.5 weeks. I think they wanted to see just how little glycolic acid maybe you can get before you get photosensitivity could be the aspect here. But the other interesting thing is they actually compared it to 2% salicylic acid use. And what's interesting is that they noticed that while glycolic acid did have that same UV sensitivity, they found that salicylic acid did not. And one of the things that they tie it to is the fact that salicylic acid at 2% might not have exfoliated skin to that same level. Remember how Gloria had mentioned about the size of the molecule and its ability to penetrate skin, basically reach deeper layers of the skin. So in that aspect, that's one theory they had. The other aspect is salicylic acid is actually known to have kind of a soothing component or soothing benefit to it, and that could also lend to why it did not have that same reaction. But all this to say, that does not mean you should not use sunscreen while using salicylic acid. It's mainly to give a comparison and between salicylic acid and glycolic, how these can behave. It's kind of a nice comparison to have.
I was just going to add that, and you might be wondering why they don't choose the same concentration level. 10% glycolic acid and 2% salicylic acid are both very common levels you find in the market. 2% salicylic acid is your classic acne product. So that's why the concentration are chosen as such. But like Victoria said, just still sunscreen.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally, just one more noteworthy fact. This is very short. There's another study that actually looked at UV sensitivity of glycolic acid, same at 10%. They treated skin for once daily for 7 days and then twice daily for 2 weeks.
Whoa, okay,
It was very intense. They saw UVB-induced tanning occur, but what's interesting is they did it on Caucasian and Asian skin, and they found that they applied it on the backs and the forearms of subjects, and they found that for both Asians and Caucasians, they saw that UV-induced tanning, but only in Asians did they see the UVA-induced tanning, which I thought was kind of interesting, but then I don't know if you think about Fitzpatrick scale, I'm like, I don't really know what happened here because generally you would have thought the Caucasians would have had more tanning.
Right? That's actually a very bizarre study. But note that this is just one small study, so I don't know if there's a solid takeaway, just like kind of one of those moments.
Yeah, exactly. So ultimately, that's kind of a nice snapshot of what happens when you use AHAs and then get sun. Let's talk about when you get a lot of sun and then immediately use AHAs.
Yeah. Again, this is fantastic that people have actually reversed the order and looked at it. And I feel like based on what we just shared, you guys might expect that, that must be terrible. But the results are actually kind of interesting.
Yeah. So I'm going to reference a mouse model because I think the comparison is actually quite good. So this is actually going to do at the chemical peel level. So they are going to look at 3 kinds of chemical peels. They're going to do a 35% glycolic acid versus a 30% salicylic acid.
Aggressive.
Versus a 10% TCA peel.
These are all office level peels.
Yes. So what they do is they first irradiate the skin. And then after that, immediately apply these peels, which sounds like ouchy.
We're gonna give you a sunburn and then give you a chemical peel. That sounds terrifying.
Yeah. But what's really fascinating is while they didn't really talk about the erythema or the sunburn part, they did talk about how they were looking at tumor formation. And what they found was that after applying these peels, they found that the treatment areas and even those in the non-treated areas, they found a reduced number of tumor formations. They also found that they had these peels, all 3, had shown suppressive effects of these photocarcinogenic aspects. And so ultimately, while it sounds really intense because we're talking about skin cancer here, I think it is really interesting to note that basically the idea is that it's okay to use AHAs post-sun. And this is one of those where obviously it's a mouse model, so it's very early, more study is needed, but that there could be a potential benefit here. And maybe there's no reason to not use AHAs. Aside from the stinging aspect, I don't think I really would want to do that directly on a sunburn.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a mouse study. And thankfully, we have Dr. Paragon coming back in 96. And there is a human study where they looked at these application order, like first sun, then glycolic versus glycolic, and then sun type of studies. Now, these studies are small, but we still think it's pretty insightful.
Yeah.
He actually did 2 different studies, both with the first study had just 5 subjects. What they did was they applied a 12% glycolic acid solution at a pH of 4.2, which is a lot milder than a lot of glycolic acid product you see on the market. This will probably be in line with glycolic acid toners that you see on the market. What they do is they apply 4 hours after irradiation. So blast the skin with sun first, and just 4 hours later, here's some glycolic acid. And they applied the glycolic acid 4 times a day.
Yeah.
What's interesting is it showed a significant reduction of erythema in 48 hours. And then at 72 hours and 96 hours revealed the hyperpigmentation. And the glycolic acid sites had less hyperpigmentation, whereas the controlled sites have continued erythema, which I'm still sitting here like, hold on, you induce there's enough UV damage that there's like a visible erythema immediately. And then you dunk it in glycolic acid. That is so brave.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild study. I felt like in this scenario, they were like, we only got 5 people and they're only here for how long? Like, how do we speed this scenario up?
Doctor, we are only legally allowed to keep them here for 3 days. All right, 3 days it is.
Just keep applying glycolic acid. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting and kind of unexpected, especially when AHAs do get a bad rep for being irritating. So they actually did another study, and honestly, this one's really bizarre, and I'll just tell you because it's more mildly amusing than there's a real takeaway. They did look, they had 4 sites. So for 2 of the sites, what they did was they applied the UV radiation, and then 24 hours after exposure, they had one site basically received 2 products, both containing 8% glycolic acid at a pH of 3.2. Why they do this, I couldn't tell you. Maybe it was a launch they're working on.
The whole line, every product has 8% glycolic acid.
Yeah, so that part was, in the sense, same thing. They saw a reduction in erythema. They actually looked at it at day 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7, but they did find significant reduction. The other one is generally weird. So this one is the one I thought was like, oh, the test is interesting, but the results make no sense. So the other 2 sites, what they did was first apply the UV radiation. Then after that, one of the sites got a 50% glycolic acid peel at 2.75. Let me read you the results from this segment, and then Laura, maybe you can tell me if this makes any sense or not. Okay. So this is what happens in segment 2. Comparison of the 2 untreated adjacent irradiated test sites demonstrated a 7, 13%, and 16% reduction in irritation can be achieved after daily application of the products to UVB damaged skin. So this is referring to the first 2 sites, okay? When the glycolic acid products were applied daily for 3 weeks and then radiated by UVB, the 3 and 4 sites we were talking about.
So then it's glycolic first and then sun damage.
A sun protection factor of 2.4 was achieved. In comparison, the site that was treated daily for 3 weeks with the 2 glycolic acid-based products and then peeled 15 minutes prior to radiation by UVB maintained an SPF trend of 1.7.
Whoa.
How did we get here? Why did we talk about SPF? Why is that the takeaway? I couldn't tell you.
Okay, so I guess, all right, to take a step back, the Dr. Perricone study is definitely trying to send a message that says glycolic acid, fantastic for sun anything, pre-sun, post-sun, it's got you covered. But it's a little bit of a wild takeaway. It's almost saying if you are consistent with glycolic acid in your routine, which I will say in this study, it is still a relatively short time to having a regimen for 3 weeks. They're almost suggesting it increases skin's natural SPF, or I guess I'm guessing it's some sort of correlation I make with the MED level that changed, which is directly in contrast with the original FDA study that says mild glycolic acid use daily decreases the MED, therefore increases sensitivity. So to me, I'm kind of like, wait, what?
I don't know how they came to this conclusion, and it feels so like they're like, we have to have a benefit. We can't say anything negative. Like, they don't talk about erythema at all. They suddenly pivot to this SPF value. So it really feels like they're cherry picking here.
And I don't know what the goal is with the peel, because that seems like very unnecessary.
Yeah, exactly. So generally mildly interesting. I wanted to share because it is a human clinical. But at the same time, the ultimate thing that I think in this genre of sun then AHA is that it can be helpful, and there's not necessarily a reason to not use AHA post like a lot of sun is what they're saying.
Right. I think ultimately all of this kind of sums up, is there a risk of glycolic acid in your routine making you more photosensitive? Sure, you might be more prone to sunburns, 100%, but you should be applying sunscreen, and that decrease in MED can be avoided. I wouldn't look at the study and be like, wow, next time I get sunburn, I'm gonna go peel
Douse it in glycolic acid.
I would be a little hesitant still, but that is to say, like, after sun exposure and after you have recovered from the sunburn phase,
get out of the erythema stage before you start aging.
Yes, but having it consistently in your routine can actually help you heal from sun damage.
We're going to talk about all of that in summary as we wrap up this episode, but let's take a quick break.
Please.
This is their Animal Fun Fact Corner. Today we're going to talk about axolotls.
The Pokemon salamanders. They're adorable.
Yeah. Funny little guys that look like they're smiling all the time. These are salamanders found in several lakes in Mexico City. They almost went extinct because of the, general development of Mexico City itself and the pollution of the waters, which is quite sad. These are actually very cool. They are quite a well-studied animal, specifically for its regenerative abilities. You'd be surprised at how often they are used to look at in medical research. Here's an example for you. So axolotls are actually used in heart defect studies due to the presence of a mutant gene that causes heart failure in embryos. And what's interesting is the embryos of these axolotls will survive almost to hatching with no heart function.
Oh, wow.
And so that defect they can observe all the way through those stages. And so scientists can actually learn a lot from them. They also, basically, they can look at things like their neural tubes because unlike other species like frogs, they're not hidden under a layer of epithelium that they'd have to remove. So it's less invasive to study these creatures. So they're very fascinating from a research perspective. But the thing that I really want to mention is about their regenerative abilities. What I didn't know is that there are actually some axolotl aficionados that breed these and have these as pets. Apparently, they're actually quite easy to raise.
Oh.
But really bizarre is because of their ability to practically regrow limbs, parts of their brains, like to full extent. And what's even stranger is that you can actually transplant their limbs to their different sites.
Wait, who decided like, oh no, my axolotl lost an arm, let me just put it on its head? Like,
exactly. And so what's wild is you can actually have axolotls with, like, for example, they lose their left arm appendage, top appendage. You can actually fuse it to have two.
oh my goodness.
So you can create some freakish axolotls here, okay? So, and I think the thing that is so fascinating is that the reason why they are able to do this is because they don't get scar tissue. Scar tissue is actually what limits that ability to regenerate. And that ability to regenerate also changes when they go through metamorphosis. I didn't know this, but they can go through this metamorphosis when they decide that they no longer want to live in the water and they want to live on land.
Yeah, the cute Pokemon stage is the water phase. Once they get on land, it's a lot less cute.
Yeah, so all in all, that's the story of the axolotl. I just was like so fascinated by just what happens to these creatures, what they do, how they're studied, how prevalent they are in science. So just general fun fact for you guys.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're going to hear about this new molecule that is identified.
Oh my God, the axolotl extract.
Yeah, that's going to help the
regenerate cells, collagen.
prevent scar tissues formation. I'm going to put it in a serum.
Someone's working on that right now. I just know it.
Yeah. I hope they don't
It's
look
the
at
next
our...
snail museum.
Oh my God. I hope
Let's
they
make
don't...
axolotls happy.
And then they get...
Axolotl poop extract.
Oh. I bet someone's working on it right now. These researchers are like, oh man, we need more funding. Let's come up with a cream.
We are the dumping ground of research that goes to die.
All right, that's the Animal Fun Corner.
Hey.
And we are going to wrap up this episode.
Okay.
All right, we shared a lot of kind of intense studies to talk through in a podcast. So we're just going to sum it all up for you guys. So we will say, yes, if you just look at the surface level question of does glycolic acid cause photosensitivity? Yes, it does, but that effect is highly reversible. It lasts about a week for skin to go back to normal, and you can prevent any actual sun damage by just simply wearing sunscreen.
Yeah. And we will say, if you're wondering who shouldn't use intense glycolic acid products, we do think if you're, let's say, a Fitzpatrick skin type 1 and 2,
More prone to sunburn.
Yeah, you're more prone to sunburn. Maybe you have a history of skin cancer in your family. I think it's fair. It's absolutely fair to consider to just dial back the use of these products. And we're talking about AHA products that are like 10% glycolic acid and up that you're using nightly. So in that aspect, I think we would recommend consider changing up your routine. We should also talk about how none of these studies actually tested topical use of glycolic acid and then applying sunscreen after.
Yeah.
What happens? And so we should say, well, there's no direct studies looking at it from this aspect. Know that there are plenty of studies that are testing AHAs and providing these subjects with sunscreen.
Yeah, in fact, that is the ethical support product to provide your study subjects when you're running a glycolic acid clinical.
Yeah.
There are a lot of, glycolic acid has a lot of chemical peel data available. All those come with a routine post-treatment with sunscreen. Yeah.
So that's to say that you should not have to worry about using AHAs in the summer if you're just using sunscreen. Very simple as that. And then finally, should you be using AHAs post a lot of sun? Yeah, so long as you're not sunburned.
Applying directly on sunburn.
Yeah, maybe don't do that.
Even though it sounds like that's what they did in the studies, I would say that is those people signed waivers.
I don't know when you hear that, you just go,
yeah, your skin feels a little singed. Yeah, we wouldn't say that's great, but I guess for us, a takeaway there is, a glycolic acid can be a staple in your routine. It can help skin recover and stay on, basically help your skin stay in shape. So while we wouldn't say douse your skin, your post-sunburn skin.
Yeah, we're not saying replace your, soothing, that aloe step that you do for sunburn and replace that with glycolic acid.
Yeah. All that to say is glycolic acid can absolutely still be a staple in your routine during summer.
Yeah. All in all, no need to fear. So as long as you guys are keeping up with the sunscreen, continue use, keep that cell turnover going, more importantly. But ultimately, we hope at the end of the day, this kind of subdues those fears that you might have when you are using these products, just because they are and can be so helpful. Otherwise, that's it for our episode.
Yep, and look forward to our sunscreen roundup coming up really soon. Speaking of good
So many
sunscreen
feels.
oh my god, too many.
So many feels. Just when I thought I couldn't have more feels about sunscreens.
Yep, so you guys can look forward to that in the next episode, I think.
Yep.
But in the meantime, where can they find us, Victoria?
You can find us on our website at www.chemistconfessions.com, where please check out our blog for our long-form guides as enrichment to these podcasts. You can find us on Instagram at chemist.confessions and DM us there with all of your burning questions, as well as please check out our stories for all of our podcast polls that really shape each of these episodes. And finally, you can find us on TikTok at Chemist Confessions. Don't DM us there. But yeah, otherwise, we will see you guys next time.
Bye!